part of the conversation. Tell your friends or tell your neighbors, whoever it is you know is interested in political issues or actually issues that affect the Nigerian mainstream economy. Then, of course, you can tell them to be part of the conversation. Once again, my name is Esther Nwachukwu, and of course, we have our social media handles is at VOP in 90.3 FM across all platforms. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's at Estiq Media on YouTube. That's ESTIQ MEDIA. ESTIQ MEDIA. There, all right, conversations take place and there are no restrictions. On this program, we tend to have analysts or guests who are well seasoned in their profession, specifically legal practitioners, social, political, and national affairs commentators who tend to give us their own perspective on these issues as it affects us. And one of the things we try to do is to let you know that in as much as we constructively look at some of these issues, it is important for us not to use derogatory terms on any public official. It is very important also not to use any ethnic or religious sentiments on any of the issues being discussed. We try to objectively and constructively, look into these issues. And of course, when you call in, your recommendations are quite essential. But it is also very important for you to know that this is a terrestrial radio station in as much as we are actually on YouTube. So it's important for you to realize that we are guided by codes, okay? The NBC code, as well as the fact that being the mainstream media, it's important for us to guide ourselves accordingly. So when you call in to share your opinion or give your perspective to what we discussed here, please, within the guidelines, constructively and logically share your opinions or perceptions to some of these issues. So once again, welcome to the Political Spotlight. And what is one of the things that we actually want to talk about? Well, it's concerning labor. Labor is quite astute. The governors are saying they cannot go beyond 62,000 naira. In fact, they're saying that the money is too much for them to pay for, the Trade Union Congress and the Nigerian Labour Congress. And it actually raised the bell. Because the question is, why is this too much for the federal government to contend with? Why would this governor say that it is something that they cannot afford? Well, Labour has actually asked the governors that if you know you cannot pay the salaries, I implore you to simply resign, because you were actually asked, or rather you were voted in by individuals in the state. So you made promises. How come you have eventually gotten in there and you are telling us that it is difficult for you to pay the salaries? If you know you cannot pay the salaries, quickly step down. This is what the Trade Union Congress actually said. They say, resign if you know you cannot pay minimum wage. This was their expression towards the state governors. You recall that the state governors sat on Friday to discuss the national minimum wage for the Trade Union Congress and the Nigeria Labour Congress, and they said they cannot go beyond 60 or 62,000 naira. So organized labor, consisting of the Nigeria Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress, condemned the governors on Saturday over their recent stand on the new minimum wage in the country. The governors, under the aegis of the Nigeria Governors Forum, they rejected the proposed 60,000 minimum wage for Nigerian workers. However, the Director of Media and Public Affairs for the Nigeria Governors Forum, Halima Ahmed, noted in a statement which was released on Friday that the governors said the proposed minimum wage was too high and unsustainable. The governor said if the 60,000 naira minimum wage is adopted, many states will allocate their entire federal account allocation committee funds to salaries, leaving no resources for development projects. So, the organized labor then faulted the Nigeria Governors Forum's position, saying every part of the new minimum wage agreement should be implemented, and any of the state governors who can't pay it should resign. This was via an interview with the Punch newspaper. And then Tommy Etim, the Deputy National President of the Trade Union Congress, said there is no minimum wage. Every segment of it should be implemented. For the governors, we have said it very clearly. If you cannot pay minimum wage, please resign, because you were voted for governance, not only infrastructure. If you build the entire infrastructure and the people are not living to use it, who will use it? When they were campaigning, did they tell us that? They didn't tell us that. They make use of the poor to get to the top. And when they get there, they start thinking outside the box. All the money they spent in electioneering campaigns, if they applied that to build infrastructure, to develop the revenue generation that would have solved some socio-economic challenges in their domain. So, according to them, they went ahead to say in this same country, the governor said that 30,000 naira was too much for governors to pay. But it is the same country that a governor emerged with over 80 billion naira. What an irony. We cannot jump processes. We will also look at it together. Labour will be meeting. We are giving Mr. President the benefit of the doubt to work the talk. The end will justify the means. You recall that last week too, right? Labour was able to disclose how much the National Assembly members earn per month. You also recall that Sheikh Hussaini sometime in 2017 or so disclosed that the governors, the senators or the House of Rep members earn 13 point something million naira per month. And that was one of the reasons why they actually banded him. They said, okay, you know what? For disclosing this, you will no longer be part of us. And it was the first time a senator would be disclosing how much they earn. And trust our National Assembly members, they were quick to debunk what Sheikh Hussaini said. And it is still on till now. So let's take a listen to when the Trade Union Congress and the Nigeria Labour Congress disclosed how much the House of Rep members were earning. Although if you search on Google now, you will just see estimations. There's no categorized amount that the senators earn, unless some of you who have campaigned or you're close to the senators and somehow they told you. If you know, shall tell us. All right, so let's listen to the senators who were actually lamenting that Labour shouldn't have done that. And they're also saying that it is a responsibility of the federal government to protect the citizens, that in as much as Labour is expressing their grouse or their discontent, they shouldn't actually grind the economy to a halt, especially with a nationwide blackout. For example, they made reference to the hospitals, which of course could have led to the death of so many. But a lot of critics are saying, even now, do we have electricity in our hospitals? All right, so let's listen to one of the House of Rep members during the deliberation on Labour.
Opinion of the trade union, but why will you go to media and say a salary of political office holders, National Assembly of that matter? I don't receive the money that they publish in the front pages of newspaper in the name of advocating for your standard living condition. Don't give wrong and lie information about institutions. Is done inside the public against. We are concerned about the trade union, but Mr. Speaker, we should be more concerned about the over 2 million Nigerian population who are suffering, 200 million who are suffering, who doesn't have food to eat, who cannot buy kerosene, who cannot pay school fees for their children, who doesn't have shelter to stay at home. We should remember, we must be proactive. Call that bill, adjust it, call for public hearing. Stakeholders should consider that. If we have done our job, federal government will not be doing what they are doing now. The prices of commodities in market, the standard living condition of the people is sympathetic. So it is very terrible. And here we are fighting for trade union living condition. I agree they constitute 13% of the population of this country. But go to equity with clean hands. Do not, in doing that, suffocate sectors like hospitals, where if it is not run, Nigerians will lose their lives. The primary responsibility of government is protecting the life and properties of its people. If the action of trade union, which is legitimate, negate those essential services, I don't think they will be doing fair to the people of this country.
Madaki stopped. I will also want to say that if you read section 16, which he has espoused properly in conjunction with section 14, which is one of the most quoted sections of the Constitution in this House, which provides for security of the citizens and their welfare being the primary purpose of government. As usual, again, I will postulate, can we say that as a government, we have succeeded in carrying out that primary purpose of government? Have we provided security for Nigerians? Have we taken care of the welfare of Nigerians? The answer to the two questions is no. We have severally talked about security, including today. In fact, it's as if one Nigerian life today equals to 1 minute silence. Now we're coming to the issue of welfare. And for several years, Nigerian workers have been complaining and crying concerning the issue of salary. Who earns 50,000 in this country and you think that a person can truly depend on a salary? Let's not deceive ourselves. It is not possible. How much is house rent? How much is your transport fare to your office and back home? And so we expect a Nigerian worker to earn as low as that and continue to serve this country. Let us stop playing the ostrich. Let's be realistic. Let's carry out our role to provide for the welfare of the citizens of this country by providing living wage for the Nigerian worker. It's really unfortunate when you hear a government talking about minimum wage and shying away from living wage. This House has resolved in the past that there is urgent need for living wage to be considered for Nigerian workers.
Indeed, there is urgent need to be considered for Nigerian workers. There's a difference between minimum wage and living wage. Trust me, I think everybody is feeling the bite of what is currently at play. There are a lot of critics who believe that the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, whatever it is they're fighting for in terms of minimum wage, is for the public sector. What about the private sector? Now, there are some companies, some private sector companies, when you want to recruit, let's say through an agency, they will tell you that you're going to pay whoever it is we're outsourcing to you the minimum wage. Now, independent companies and corporate organizations that are private are saying they cannot meet up even with a new minimum wage. They're saying, how do you want us to implement this new salary wage? So even if the governors are saying they cannot go beyond 60,000 naira, what about private sector employees? Nigerian population, especially for the working condition in the country, are more employed in the private sector. For the civil servants, yes, but in the private sector, that's where you have more employment. So the question is, even if Labour is able to implement this and they achieve this, will the private sector be able to meet up with this demand from Labour? Will they be able to pay the new standard minimum wage, if at all there is an eventual agreement between the federal government and Nigerian Labour Congress? And when I mean the federal government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because that is what is the next, conversation to be had. The governors have had their own and they're saying they can't go beyond this. So Labour is waiting to hear what President Tinubu has to say. As of last week, we heard that Wale Edun was able to propose about 105,000. Labour is insisting on initially it was 494 or 495. Now they were able to come down to 250,000 naira. So we don't know yet, but we saw that Wale Edun, with his team, were able to come down to 105. Later we heard that no, that report is not true. They debunked it. We have a situation with this administration where they always like to debunk issues. Anytime something comes up, the next thing they are doing is to debunk. Oh, we never said that. Oh, it's not true. It's not coming from us. These are statements from mischief makers. Well, the thing is, Nigerians are asking the House of Rep members, why is it difficult for us to have access to your amount, how much you earn per month? What is there for you to tell us how much you earn, if indeed, you feel that you're not earning enough? Well, Father Mbaka, the charismatic Catholic priest, has criticized the proposed 62,000 minimum wage for civil servants. He questioned why it isn't applied to all government officials, which includes lawmakers and governors. He condemned the disparity in allowances and argued that those suffering in rural areas deserve more. He highlighted the inadequate pay for teachers, nurses and doctors and urged the government to address the issue urgently to prevent potential unrest due to the high inflation in the country. I must tell you, inflation is very rife. Inflation indeed is very rife. And it's so sad that Nigerians are the ones, the ordinary Nigerians are the ones bearing the brunt of this situation. The ordinary Nigerians are the ones having to go through these unfortunate circumstances. And it is quite stifling. It's truncating, but then that's basically why we're actually here. We want to continue to have these conversations so that we can know what to do. And maybe, all right, maybe with the recommendations given by our analyst here, something will be done as soon as possible. So let's head on to politics. Of course, it's a political spotlight. We cannot continue it if we don't head into what's going on in the political scene, which actually affects the Nigerian economy, whether you like it or not. Now, let's head on to Omoyele Sowore. You know, he's a very controversial person and a strong critic of politicians, or those who are serving in government, or those who aspire to serve in government. According to him, this time around, he's coming on to Peter Obi. He says Peter Obi is a packaged fraud like Buhari. So, according to him, Sowore said that he was the first to expose Obi's alleged corrupt dealings during his time as Anambra State Governor. Sowore made this claim in a recent no-holds-barred interview with Pulse Nigeria, wherein he disclaimed certain misconceptions about his perception of the former Anambra State Governor. Sowore, of course, you know, is the owner of Sahara Reporters media outlet. He has never hidden his disdain for the political class, especially those who have had the opportunity to serve in one capacity or the other. And he has been a constant thorn in the flesh of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, including former President Muhammadu Buhari, since the time the latter held sway as a Lagos State Governor. Well, in the build-up to the 2023 elections, he was, on several occasions critical of Peter Obi, who was driving the Labour Party movement as a third force after dumping the People's Democratic Party. Sowore presented himself as a youth-centric candidate and has always advocated for a revolution that would lead to the dislodgement of the current ruling class for well-meaning and young Nigerians to take over the reins of the country. So, there were questions asked during the interview. Why has he not sold on the Peter Obi movement or the obedient movement? And according to him, he says that in as much as a lot of youth were gravitating towards Peter Obi, why is he not part of the train that is, holding the flag up or being part of the obedient movement, supporting Peter Obi? And he said that he has a general disdain for dishonest persons or dishonest politicians. He has disdain for lackluster performance. And when anybody then comes up as a politician or who wants to run Nigeria, they come up with, fraudulent packaging. So according to him, he says, my default position is to warn people first and then expose them later. My position about Peter Obi has been consistent, the same way my position about Tinubu has been consistent. It is only that the people who are now on the internet as influencers weren't born at the time when have been against all these terrible politicians, including those in the military. So he says, otherwise, you would have known that in 2006 or 2008, I was the first to expose Tinubu's drug history in Chicago. But the people who now follow Peter were not interested at that time because it wouldn't favor them. But in 2022, they suddenly realized that Tinubu was a druggie. I'm quoting what Sowore said, and took it and ran away with it without giving credit to Sahara Reporters, which was the platform that was used in publishing at the time, and that he was the one that also exposed Atiku's corruption, including all the bribes he collected, to the extent that Atiku ran away from the US based on the report done by Sahara Reporters on his corruption, which included the corruption between him and former President Olusegun Obasanjo, using educational funds to buy cars for their girlfriends and how they were stealing them. He said it was he and Sahara Reporters that first exposed it. And he also said that it was he and Sahara Reporters that found out that Peter Obi was building substandard hospitals and never built schools, as it later revealed. He was investing state money in his private business and carrying money in cash to Apapa, one of which was 250 million naira, and the police arrested them, Peter Obi, and found out that he was stealing money. So all of these, according to him, were exposed by Sahara Reporters. So if some people now go and repackage Obi and claim that he is going to help Nigeria work, and I say to them, my full chest, that this is a packaged fraud, and you get upset about that, that is not my problem. There are other topics to discuss, all right, but I want to introduce my guest because I really need him to actually tell me what he thinks about all of this. And my guest in the studio, I'm sure if you had listened earlier to Citizen Jones, he was part of the, I will not call them analysts, we're having their beer parlor conversation. You know, the men were having their talk, and that is Barrister Evans Ufeli. Barrister Evans Ufeli is a rabbi. It was a self-imposed rabbi. He's a political, national, and social affairs commentator, one of the strong citizen advocate. And Barrister Evans actually has his own media outlets. Barrister Evans Ufeli, good evening, and thank you for joining me in the Political Spotlight. How are you?
Good evening, Nigerians. I'm fine.
Thank you for waiting for me to do.
All right, that's
Barrister
okay.
Evans, Matakwa Joe, let me start again. Let me start with Labour. Please, is anything wrong with the money amount they're proposing? Secondly, the governor's saying they can't go beyond 60,000 naira. What exactly is that? Father Mbaka is asking asking the House of Rep members and the governors to slash most of their allowances to accommodate the salaries of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. Please, briefly, what do you think? What do you think about all this?
First, I think the federal government is speaking from two sides of their mouth.
Okay.
Because the president handed over this to be worked out by, one of the ministers.
All right.
And he came up with 105,000
Yes,
naira.
that's Wale Edu.
Wale Edu, yes. He came up with 105,000 naira. Then at the same time, the federal government has said they are going to pay beyond 60.
Yes.
And they came up to 62. So why is the federal government coming up to 62 and then Wale Edu coming up to 105?
No, that's state governors are the ones coming up with 62. They're saying they can't go beyond that.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. The governors, the state governors didn't meet 52. They are 62. They are meeting 57.
Okay.
You understand? So the federal government have two figures actually as it stands, because one is Wale Edu and the other is. So the issue now is that when you look at labor, what labor has come down to from 495.
494.
494. They have come down to
250.
250. Now, this 250, the federal government has not agreed to 250. The Governors Forum, they are now saying that even the 62 is too much to pay, that they cannot pay. So, but for those who have done analysis of what it will take, let's say they use a family of 4, for example,
Exactly.
and they say by the time you put the expenses together, the funds the federal government are proposing cannot even take on, the wages, that's required. But we have a governor in this country that have said he's going to pay 70. That's the Edo State governor,
Yes.
which everybody have commended. Now, governors must allow, because the governors are coming now as a clog in the wheel of success. Before now, the governors have not spoken. It has been Labour and the federal government back and forth.
Yes.
Okay. The federal government signed up to paying above 60 when the national grid was shut down. Now, the governors are taking us backward. Okay? These are the same governors whom they have increased their allocation as a result of the removal of the subsidy. By the way, Wale Edu has already told us that they are still paying subsidy.
Yes.
But assuming but not
about 500 and something trillion naira.
So that is.
And they deny that they're not paying subsidy.
I don't know why Nigerians took that with the kid gloves. Nobody's protesting. I'm not calling for protest, but I'm saying.
No, Barrister Evans, there's an issue.
Government should be held accountable to its promises and policies.
There's an issue with the disparity of information that comes up. For example, when Labour called out how much the House of Rep members were earning, they actually went against it. In fact, you heard what one of the lawmakers said.
Yeah.
They said that's not the truth. They refused to disclose how much they earn. Even if Shehu Sani, at the time he was a senator, disclosed it. The Minister of Labour too said that she doesn't think that the House of Rep members are earning as much as Nigerians think they're earning. So give us a peg. How much are you guys earning? Now, if you look at the allowances of these governors, you remember when Akpabio said prayers are being sent to your account for their travel expenses. They're asking, why can't you slash all of this? You're there to serve the people. You're not there to make money through the people or from the people. You made promises to the people. So why can't you slash all these allowances, travel allowances and all whatnot, or put yourself in the shoes of the common Nigerian worker and maybe you can understand, but they're not doing so.
Well, the truth is that the National Assembly is actually working at cross purpose.
Okay.
With Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution that creates that office. Section 4 of the 1999 Constitution said that the National Assembly shall be empowered
Okay.
With the powers to make good laws for the purposes of improving the condition, make good laws for the country, so that the country will cling on to prosperity and the rest of that. But what we see today is that they are not able to make a law for minimum wage.
Okay.
A law that will give people the section 14 of the Constitution says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government.
Yes.
The responsibility of legislature, therefore, is to ensure that that is made practicable. Okay, but that is not done. Now, the salaries of the National Assembly members, that of the executive, is fixed by the Revenue Allocation and Fiscal Commission. You see, but that of the workers is fixed by the Labour Act. So you have discrepancies. You have two kind of system in the same country for wages. So the truth is that based on current realities, you see, Labour would not have muted for this amount if the federal government, when this government assumed office, they had not disrupted the lives of the citizens.
That's true.
By saying subsidy is gone, thoughtlessly, without plan and backup as to what to do. Okay, the citizens we had even 1 month to go because the previous government did not budget.
Yes.
We had 1 month to get into that.
We had the month of June.
Yes, before this government now disrupted it.
Yes.
Disrupted it, not thinking about the fact that Labour will come up with this. When Labour first muted their grievances, this government packaged a supplementary budget.
Exactly.
And assigned, as it was 48,000 or thereabout, or 30 whatever thousand they gave them throughout the time when that supplementary budget subsisted.
Okay.
Before they came out with their own budget for this year. Now, Labour now went proper to ask for what originally should belong to them because you have disrupted their lifestyle.
Exactly.
Cost of living rose to 300%.
Can you imagine?
Were you not thinking that you are going to also increase minimum wage, which the last minimum wage has actually expired by law? So Labour is properly justified for what they are asking for. Not only that it has expired, the cost of living has increased by over 300%. So they must ask for an increment. That's why they went for 600 and something thousand
at the time.
At the beginning, they moved from there to 495, from there to 250.
50.
It is expected that by now the federal government should come up with a position.
Exactly.
We're talking about the people that these people that are agitated are less than 1% of the population.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it looks as if it's the entire Nigerian that is asking for that money.
It's not the entire Nigerians.
The people who are asking for it is just about less than 1% of the population. So this is not something that Labour cannot handle. This is not something that the federal government cannot handle. But they have made it to look like the country does not have money. But they saw you when the National Assembly was constituted, and then you gave them brand new cars for 100 and whatever million each. Labour saw that. Labour also saw when you increase the electricity tariff. They saw when you remove subsidy. They were there when you remove everything removable and the cost of living have gone this high. So right now, they asked for a reversal of the electricity bill. You did not yield to that.
Of course.
They asked for palliatives. When you increase the subsidy, you do not grant them palliatives. So what is left now is for them to ask for an increase. And that is exactly what it is. They
You remember
no longer
that
subsist.
they called off the strike and gave the federal government 5 days, which is going to elapse today.
It's the last for them to deliberate.
For them to deliberate.
And
we're supposed to even know what the conclusion would be, meaning that if they don't meet at a middle ground, the strike may commence anytime next
the
week.
strike was not even called off. It was relaxed.
Yeah, okay, that's true. It's true. It was suspended.
They said they relaxed it. Now to enable 5 days to enable them to determine whatever it is they should come up with. But right now, as we speak, the federal government have not made a headway on this because Labour is still on 250. Okay, the federal government is talking about 62. The governors' forum is saying the 62 is not realistic. Okay, so what I think should be done is that the federal government should first agree with the governors' forum or the governors. Okay, then they can cascade with Labour and find out, because the truth is that 62 is not realistic. And I faulted Labour for calling off the strike when the federal government mooted the idea of that they will
No,
pay
it's not
60.
wrong. If the federal government said, you know what, let's negotiate. I don't think it was wrong for Labour to consider that, because
No, they should have
that
asked for the figure. They should have asked for the figure that is required, because, okay, now, don't you think that we are most likely going to go back onto that strike? Because if Labour is saying 250 and the federal government is saying 62, it's a far cry. So the window is wide. So what it means is that Labour will make a statement since the thing is expired.
Exactly.
We are rather at the tail of expiration. Labour will make a statement as to what they want to do. But the federal government has also faulted Labour for shutting down the national grid.
Especially, yes. That was basically what they had issues with. But that was what made the strike, that was what made it effective.
That was what made it effective, because in that 24 hours, the federal government lost so much. Okay? And it was like, we shouldn't have even gone this far.
Exactly.
We should have discussed with these people, ensure that we have the country running. And then there's nothing wrong with having everything in place while you discuss. But the federal government of Nigeria will not always want to be serious until you have done incalculable damage to what the country should. I mean, they off the lights midnight, and for 24 hours going to 28 hours, there was no light whatsoever anywhere in the country.
It was terrible.
So that tells you
that experience is not a good one to continue.
It's not a good one, but
and then to make it worse, dispensing outlets, that's filling stations, some of them were not supplying petrol.
They were not supplying because there's no way they could go on.
They were not supplying petrol.
So what I think is that if the federal government cannot pay the 250, they can at least align with Edo State government and say, okay, since a governor in the state, in Edo State, have agreed
on 70,
okay, can we all push there?
But do you think Labour will agree for 70 when they are saying 250? Even the one that Wale Edu proposed, 105, I consider that was at least a little bit fair. But 70?
That was actually properly, they looked at the variables.
Yes.
For 105 looked like what it should be. If Labour will agree.
If Labour will agree.
It looked like what it should be. So if they are not going to pay that and they are saying 62, that means they're asking us to go back to strike. Okay,
it's not going to be funny.
The strike disrupted a lot because you would think it's just one day, but that one day, if you look at the far-reaching effect, affected other days.
Exactly.
Because
the private sector, hospitality businesses, hospitals, private hospitals, they were running on diesel for 24 hours.
Do you know the loss that took? That particular day that they did not work, the flights that came from Saudi Arabia to take people to Hajj flew back empty. You know what it takes for a jet to fly from an international empty?
Can imagine.
It's a huge loss.
It's true. The passengers were stranded.
They were stranded. The airline did not make effect. They did not lift the people.
Exactly.
Okay? Because ordinarily, if that aircraft arrived in Nigeria with people, it should load back with, you understand? But that didn't work. And I find it very disconcerting that we allow that kind of thing to happen. You know, it's not the best way to go. I think the federal government can address this issue in good time.
That's it's a major problem, Barrister Evans. I personally have issues with the communication gap with this administration.
No, that one
in fact, from the previous administration, one would have expected that, okay, being the fact that the president was formerly the governor of Lagos State, you understand the essence or the essentiality of communicating. They give room for speculation, they give room for guessing, and then they complain that there is fake news rife. When you don't give
when Bayo Nanoga makes a statement, Ajuren Gerari will come out and say it was wrong. You understand?
Exactly.
What is left now is for Ajuren Gerari or Bayo Nanoga to come out and say the president was wrong. That's what is left. We saw it when the president was to address the joint session of the National Assembly for 25 years of democracy, where Bayo Nanoga had issued a statement that the president was going to address, instead of a broadcast, is going to address a joint session of the National Assembly. Ajuren Gerari came out and said, no, that was not going to be so. Then last week, we also had another discrepancy again, where someone is saying something, the other is saying another. So what it means is that possibly there's no cohesion. Don't they pass memo in the presidency Don't they have unison of purpose?
Didn't you see didn't you see the report on the subsidy that the federal government is paying subsidy?
Yes.
That Wale Edu spoke about, and then Bayo Onanuga said that is not an official one.
Yes.
That there are processes, and in the processes you have different arrangements, or you come to different conclusions. Doesn't mean that it is certainly what it is.
What's the essence of debunking? Nigeria has already accepted. We knew that they were paying subsidy.
IMF said so. World Bank said so. APC chieftain said so.
IMF even asked the federal government, why are you selling fuel at this amount when the landing cost is this?
Oh God,
the federal government did not answer. They didn't say anything. You understand? Now we knew that this was paying subsidy. So now I would have expected that the president who said subsidy is gone should have been the one upon 25 years to come to Nigeria and say, you know what? This is what I said at my assumption of office. But the reality on ground is that the landing cost is now up 1,000 naira. And because the landing cost is 1,000 naira, and it takes logistics to lift it from the seaport.
Exactly.
And then truck it, because we truck and do all that, we are paying the differentials of this, which amount to subsidy. Therefore, it is inevitable that we have to. So the president, if you want to be honest, if you want to be a leader that inspires confidence, that's what you would do. You don't send one another to us.
I would have even thought that this administration would work on that, because we knew that a lot of Nigerians were not happy with how they emerged. I felt that the first thing they would have done is image rebranding.
Yes.
And one of the strong suits of image rebranding is to create a sense of transparency.
Yes.
Let your words resonate your action, or let your actions resonate your words.
Yes.
But there's a huge difference. There's a lackluster attitude in that regard. Then it's almost like what they say is not what they do, and you always elicit the compassion or empathy of Nigerians.
Yeah, now
why?
Sending Onanuga to us is a breach of trust. It's a complete breach of trust.
He always sounds. Do you know that he actually alleged that the strike that took place was the fault of Peter Obi and obedience? He literally accused.
Yeah. Hold on. Do you know that when the president went to Netherlands and then to Saudi Arabia, you remember that?
I remember that.
And then to an unknown destination when Nigerians now started complaining. Do you know that period? You know what Onanuga did? He raised an issue about Peter Obi misdirecting the marketing Nigeria and Canada. And on Twitter, for almost 72 hours.
That was what was trending.
That was.
Do you think that that's a distraction mechanism? You think it's deliberate to distract people?
It was a strategy.
Okay, I think he's a distractive minister.
Yeah, after 72 hours, as at the time we now came back, because I was on a Twitter space conversation on the issue. Later, we just said, wait a minute, where's the president? Before we came to that realization, after 72 hours, the president emerged. You understand? So sometimes, you see, this playing smart, when you are supposed to give the citizens the right information and you're playing smart, it goes further to devalue your government.
But Nigerians have found them out. I mean, if you notice this time around, everyone is alert. Everyone is watching. It was before, when we didn't have social media, when we had to rely on NTA or Radio Nigeria to give us information from the government. People did not really know some certain. Now everybody knows. Even before it happens, they can actually predict. So why not try to posit yourself in such a way that people can actually hold you responsible for the words that you dish out?
Nigerians that elections have consequences. They didn't believe it. Do you know that during the electioneering, somebody went and cast people as bishops?
Yeah, we saw that.
You understand? We saw that. Yes, and the way it played out. And we even saw them when they were sharing the proceeds of that deception. You understand? But people still shut their minds down and voted the way they voted. Now, they were thinking that will just pass away. But the election have consequences, and the consequence of it is what we are bearing now.
Exactly.
And that fruit is what we'll bear in the next 4 years.
All right.
So whatever you see,
it's
an offshoot of whatever it is. you ignored.
All right, Barrister Evans, we'll come to Labour because that conversation is ongoing. Let's look at the Peter Obi's obedience and the Labour Party. There's a lot actually going on. There's also a lot of expectations. For example, Bayo Nanuga is always on Peter Obi's head. You have Reno Mokri on Peter Obi's head. Recently, you have Showore too on Peter Obi's head. And then now, you actually have Showore on Peter Obi's head. According to Showore, he said he doesn't trust Peter Obi. He doesn't believe in what he's putting out there. That he called it packaged fraud. And he gave several reasons for why he doesn't think that Peter Obi is honest. So here it is. Just 2 or 3 days ago, Peter Obi was able to make some clarifications. He talked about what the obedience movement is all about, because the Labour Party created a directorate of obedience. Now, immediately when that happened, the spokesperson, Yunusa Tanko, quoted Obi as saying on his X handle, "I like to categorically state," this is what he wrote, "I like to categorically state that the obedient movement is not a directorate in any particular political party. Any individual or individuals claiming to be leaders of this non-existent directorate are simply not members of the broader obedient movement. There may be a youth mobilization directorate in political parties, but the obedient movement is far beyond a particular political party. The obedient movement is a diverse and inclusive collective that transcends traditional political, religious, and ethnic affiliations. It is not domiciled within any particular party or headquartered in any particular part of the country. Its membership spans across Africa and the globe, comprising individuals from various backgrounds, including rural communities, public, private, corporate entities, united by a shared vision for a new and better Nigeria." Meaning that the obedient movement, it may not necessarily be a Peter Obi as the figurative head.
It's not.
It could be any individual that the movement believes in or trusts. It just happens to be that Obi fell into that category that people trust.
He espoused the narrative.
Exactly.
The dissatisfaction.
That's what Yunusa Tanko is trying to clarify. So anybody thinking that the obedient movement is all about Peter Obi alone, or that is a Labour Party thing, the person is misconceiving it. I mean, is getting it wrong. Now, Peter Obi, because of this, this whole thing, there's what you call differences in perception and retention. Now, people now felt that, okay, Peter Obi is trying to extract or isolate the obedient movement from the Labour Party after that directorate was, created. And he had to address the press. I think he said he was at the airport and a journalist asked a question. Yeah. He said that he solely belongs to the Labour Party. The obedient movement, like Yunusa Tanko, has already described what it is. But a lot of people feel that if not because of Peter Obi and the obedient movement in terms of the support they have for him, the Labour Party wouldn't have gained the kind of relevance it has gained. I want to play one of the House of Rep members who is a Labour Party representative. He actually had his own idea of what he thinks. Now, I don't know if a couple of persons may dispute it, but let's actually listen to what he has to say in regards to this whole situation, and then we'll delve into Omoyele Sowore.
To use my own federal constituency as a case study, FCT residents have not fared better since 1999, if you ask me. Most of the hospitals that we have were built. That Labour Party is obedient movement and obedient movement is Labour Party. Two of them are inseparable. You cannot separate Labour from obedient movement. Neither can you separate obedient movement from Labour. And let me say this. Labour Party has grown as a party. And when there is growth, you expect some kind of, when people are involved in something that is growing up, there will be struggle for leadership. There will be struggle for a lot of things. If today what has happened to us is not happening, I will tell you that there is no sign of growth among us. But
because that people now believe that Labour is a party that can deliver, that people can even emerge through that platform, what do you expect? The agitation to be part of the system will be there. But I can tell you that Labour is one under the able leadership of Barrister Julius Abure. Labour is not divided. We know that some people might be disenchanted because of one thing or the other. It is normal. Even in our personal families, we have disagreement, but that does not mean that the family will disintegrate. We will not allow that. And all you see the national officers under Abure doing now is that peace. Everybody is interested in making peace, because peace is what will continually propel Labour going forward. So,
are you also aware of the APC and the PDP
that can never mix together? What you just said now is practically impossible. By PDP and the Labour merging together, I can tell, PDP and APC merging together, the possibility of them coming to Labour to merge with us is what is there. In other way around, you cannot find it. And I tell you, Nigeria knows where they stand. This is 1 year into this administration. Everyone now can tell if, they said the renewed hope. Whether that hope that Buhari left behind is being renewed or what? Because that is what that mandate stands for. He said renewed hope. We are in hopeless situation, so they want us to renew that hopeless situation, but Nigerians will decide when the time comes.
All right, that was Obika Chinedu, the Labour Party House of Rep member, and you can hear him what he had to say about the Obedient Movement and the Labour Party. So let's have that as that, because like I said, we will still have a lot of conversation concerning that. What do you think about Omoyele Showore's description of Peter Obi?
Well, Showore's description of Peter Obi is an opinion.
Okay.
An opinion. No court has convicted Peter Obi as a fraudster.
All right.
Or one who is a package fraud.
Okay.
Okay. Or one whom stole money and was moving money to, like he alleged.
Okay.
Moving money to somewhere and was caught, according to the Sahara reporters and all that. So it's not a case of someone who have been tried and convicted. So it's all allegations.
All right.
Yes. And one thing about allegation is that allegation is not guilt. Okay. All these allegations can be subjected to the appropriate authority.
Okay.
It's until a court of law has convicted or made prosecution against Peter Obi and he has been found wanting. That is when you can officially say that what Showore is saying was the truth or was false. Okay. Peter Obi, we don't need too many opinions about Peter Obi. Okay. We have seen how the last election played out, how he conducted himself, comported himself, even when he lost, how he resorted to the judicial system, believe in the judicial system, and the judicial system gave their judgment to the effect, and he moved on.
Okay.
He has moved on. Now, you see, this opinion he has shared about people. If you look at the other politicians, Atiku, even the current president, Kwankwaso, and the rest of that, those persons on that record have bigger allegations that are even more probable than what he has said about Peter Obi.
About Peter Obi.
I mean, the president was all over the place.
I'm telling you.
International community, the Chicago, whatever.
Exactly. Even the FBI too commented on it. I think they were just waiting to see how the Supreme Court ruling will go.
So how many international investigative authorities have investigated Peter Obi and found him wanting of any offense, criminal liability, and all that? Those are you need to benchmark it. Look at these persons whom have been governors.
Exactly.
The president had only been governor of Lagos State
For
when he
8
had
years.
all these allegations.
Late Gani was one of the
from
persons that
Toronto
pursued
to
it.
Chicago, he ruled Lagos State with Toronto. Now he became president with Chicago. All those ones are not. Peter B. We've seen his pedigree.
Exactly.
We've seen his result from Osaka. We've seen the business
That he's into.
he did in the UK. About he moved to Nigeria. His businesses in Nigeria, they are not hidden. They are the bank where he was MD, the company he ran, the UK to Nigeria. We've seen all that. So if you have tied allegations to all those companies he have run and all that, and you say he was fraudulent, or you had given us evidence as to when he was governor and what he stole,
Yes.
and then you see all those things he's talking about, you're supposed to write a petition
Okay.
and send to EFCC. You understand?
Exactly.
So it's EFCC that will investigate all those things and come up with.
For it, people to know if that's true or not.
EFCC will investigate it and come up with whatever it is they should come up with.
All right.
That's the right way to go.
To go.
Yeah, it is not to tell the public. The public don't have prosecutorial powers. It is the EFCC that have prosecutorial. You channel it to the EFCC
All right.
and let the EFCC prosecute him and find him
Okay.
guilty.
All
Then
right.
we'll begin to say, okay, the bit of it that we were all gunning for, this is what the findings are.
Exactly.
It's not enough. You see, because politicians, there are a lot of scandals in politics. If you believe all, you will just run mad. So let the ones that are proven by a court of law, let them be the ones who believe and then give our reason, not opinions.
Okay. All right. Mr. Elvis Elimehele will be joining us via the telephone this evening on the Political Spotlight. Mr. Elvis is a national political and social affairs commentator. He's also a journalist of over 3 decades, and you know him. He's very astute, also very, very, what I say, emphatic when he wants to talk about issues of national interest. Mr. Elvis Elimehele, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the Political Spotlight.
Good evening, Esther. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you. Happy Sunday to you.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Same to you.
Barrister Evans,
Good evening. My
Good
brother, my brother, don't finish my bread. Oh, I saw the movement. America bread is different from Nigeria bread. Oh, I'm coming to the studio for my bread.
I greet you. Well done, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Elvis, we've actually had quite a conversation, but I want to throw this next phase of our conversation to you, and it's concerning the Aba killings. And you know that its investigations are still ongoing, right? Nnamdi Kanu, through his lawyer, has advocated that the Nigerian military should do what you call objective investigation and not to kill its people for no reason. That's one. Now, also today, troops of the Nigerian army under Operation Udoka, they successfully raided a camp belonging to IPOB located in Igboro Forest, Arochukwu local government area of Abia State on Saturday. Now, this operation was part of a targeted response to last week's killing of 5 soldiers at Obikabia Junction in Aba, which was stated in a statement that was released on X. Now, the army reported that the operation aimed to capture those responsible for the attack on the soldiers, 3 of whom hailed from the southeast, and also to confiscate arms and ammunition from IPOB and its affiliate Eastern Security Network. During the raid, the army troops engaged in a firefight with IPOB members, resulted in the death of 6 group members. Now, I want you to also bear in mind that the spokesperson of IPOB, Ima Powerful, completely distanced himself from the killings that occurred at Obikabia Junction in Aba on that particular day, which is I think May 30, which is the Biafran Day, where they were paying respect to the fallen heroes of those who died, all right, in 1967. Now, one of the things also that Ima Powerful said was that no IPOB member will decide to disintegrate the peace being experienced in Aba, because that is one of the things they've been clamoring for in the southeast. Now, the army has come in and they said they raided a camp and they killed 6 people. Sheikh Husani made a statement lately. He said that the Nigerian military is usually so apt in response when it has to do with anything in the southeast, but that when it comes to the northeast or north central, their attitude is lackluster and lackadaisical. Let me draw your mind back. Just on Friday, Boko Haram held sway in a community for hours. They went there. They took 20 members in that community in broad daylight. They beheaded 10 and shot down 10. According to them, they said they warned those community members to evacuate that particular place, but that he did not listen. They also said those that he beheaded was a lesson because they had asked them to join the Boko Haram, and that if they refused to join, they should leave, but that he did not leave. Also, in the former president's community, local government in Daura, you can imagine that 27 persons in Dusima local government area were murdered, literally slaughtered, and they're calling these individuals bandits. Now, we've not heard any official response from the Nigerian military. In fact, this guy said that they ambushed the Nigerian military stationed in those areas and they've not been able to return. This is how bad it is. But we've not heard any response from the Nigerian military. We've not heard them organize any press conference. We've not heard any tactical team who will be responding to that. So my question is this: if the Nigerian army can be apt and resolute in their response to killings by supposed, according to them, they profile these killings to IPOB or Eastern Security Network, and Boko Haram is holding sway in broad daylight. I mean, when you look at all of this, doesn't it beg the question, what exactly is going on?
Yeah, thank you, Esther. I think what you have just asked is actually what led to this IPOB matter that has become an issue in the Southeast. Southeasterners have always, be clamoring on what is going on within them, especially the discrimination that is going on, segregating the Southeast out of Nigeria. And, that also gave birth to MASOB. From MASOB now, we now saw IPOB came out again, because of what has been going on. And it's not different from what the government, the discriminatory tendency the government have been mentioning out to the Easterners, that the military is also trying to follow, take a cue from. I think it's still the same process. You just made mention of the Shiroro killing in Niger State. That's the beheading, and that's and you made mention of the one that happened in Katsina as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one would have even thought that these were supposed to be of paramount importance to the Nigerian army, because you are talking of 20-something. That's almost about 50-something people died in these two attacks. But today we have not heard anything from the military concerning them. But we are now hearing that just yesterday night to this morning, some people were neutralized in the Southeast as a result of IPOB. Then the big question comes to mind. IPOB, the Buhari's administration declared them as terrorists, and they have been against that word. Declaring them as terrorists. Yeah. If you declare IPOB as terrorists, I don't know what they continue to call these people that are terrorizing the North Central and the Northwest bandits. One would have expected that the same hand you are using to look out for the ones that happened in East now, you also met it out to this one that have even done so worse. Much more. You can even imagine the train incident that happened last time, the number of people that died, and the series of adoption and killing. Remember that private university in Kaduna and all others. But at the end of the day, we just discovered that there's kind of like the same Sheikh Sani you made mention of, that like the way he described Nigeria corruption that time, that some are being served with deodorant and some are being used insecticide against. That is what we are saying in the north. I want to see what Buba, the military spokesperson, Major General Buba, will say on this when he's going to brief the press, probably before the end of this week, because I know some of these questions are going to press
on the recent killings. That's why this conversation is coming up, because it's the attitude and the alacrity in response when it comes to anything in the Southeast. But what is going on in the Northeast, the North Central? Mr. Elvis, let me also remind you that just 2 days ago, or even this same Saturday, a particular bus conveying along Yobe or so, these Boko Haram members actually apprehended that bus. When I say kidnapped the passengers in that bus, guess what? They profiled them by their religion, meaning they were asking questions if you're a Christian or a Muslim. They took 4 of them out. One of them escaped or something. They said the whereabouts of one of them is cannot be known, because those onlookers, those who saw what happened, were describing what happened. And 3 of the men were gunned down based on their religion. And guess the time? 9 a.m. in the morning. 9 o'clock. So these non-state actors are perpetuating this evil, and it's almost like it has become a norm. Amnesty International has questioned the president that what exactly are you doing? What is going on with the lives and properties of Nigerians under the hands of these terrorists, that's Boko Haram members and these supposed bandits? The killings have become too much and unwarranted. Now, let me also read to you something. You know Bello Turji, right? I don't know if you know, he's one of the notorious bandits. Now, something interesting actually took place. A Nigerian army man made a statement. He's an officer in Niger, right? Or one of the military guys in Niger. That man told Turji that he was not elusive, as credible intelligence has showed that the bandit kingpin was being protected by the Nigerian government. That's what this particular guy said. A lieutenant colonel from the Niger Republic Army has asked bandit kingpin Bello Turji to stay off his country. In that viral video, he told Turji that he was not elusive and the fact that he was being protected by the Nigerian government. The officer said he was from a military unit in the state of Zandar, who was reacting to Turji's claim where the terrorists mocked the Nigerian military's claim of arresting a wanted terrorist, Muhammadu Baleri, who is one of Turji's commanders, and vowed that the days of Turji's terror reign were numbered, and that Niger is not like Nigeria that is protecting him. So that brings the question for this Nigerian army man to make such a bold and audacious statement that the Nigerian government is protecting a supposed kidnap terrorist kingpin. What does that say about these non-state actors preying in broad daylight on innocent community members, taking over communities, taking over entire settlement of the original inhabitants? What's your take on this?
Esther, I've always told you that the terrorism we are witnessing in Nigeria it has become business. And that's what he has done. The military of South Nigeria has just confirmed. Remember during Goodluck Jonathan, when we were preparing for that election, everybody thought 2015 election, everybody thought that the election was not going to hold in the northeastern part of Nigeria. But Jonathan came in with mercenaries that had to push all the so-called Boko Haram out of existence. Then we saw Ground Zero. We are talking about Ground Zero in Sambisa. They say Sambisa today. Even Jonathan visited the troop then in Maiduguri and even saw the operation was successful. Election took place. Then when Buhari, that was so everybody so say, he's a retired general, he's coming to liberate the south northeast, and he's going to make sure that even part of his campaign was that within 6 months terrorism was going to be over in Nigeria. Stayed for 8 years. We saw that the terrorism began to fester more than Jonathan's time. That's to tell you that something is happening to what we call terrorism in Nigeria. It's not just
Mr.
ordinary.
Elvis, Amnesty International said from December to February this year, about 1,336 people were killed in Plateau State.
Yes.
Hundreds have been killed in Benue, Zamfara, and Katsina.
Yes.
So what begs the question is, what is happening? If the Nigerian military is overwhelmed or underwhelmed, can't they buy mercenaries? I mean, this is what Jonathan did during his administration. So
Jonathan did it and it was successful. It was successful, and election had to take place in those far north that everybody thought there was not going to be election.
So
what is going on, Esther, is that
Mr. Elvis, why not bring in the mercenaries if it feels like the Nigerian military cannot handle this?
The people who are benefiting from this terrorism are part of successive government, even in this administration. They will not allow the government to think towards that side, because have you thought of the logistics that these terrorists, are available to them on daily basis? These guys feed in the bush, as we are told. These guys, ride motorcycles everywhere. You know what petroleum matter is in Nigeria today? They are able to buy fuel to power their motorcycles and even buy their guns and bullets that they are using to terrorize Nigerians. Have you thought that? Have you not reasoned that it is not these ragtag boys that are in the bush that have access to this? There are sophisticated people who are behind this terrorism. Therefore, this terrorism is going to stay long with Nigeria, except we have a government that is ready to actually stake its name and take the bull by the horn.
Mr. Elvis, are you saying that Nigeria should continue to expect this to happen in our communities? These individuals are evacuating original settlers and overtaking our lands.
Yes, because the who is who are behind them. Except there is a government that has that willpower to say no, it must end. And that was what Jonathan did by bringing in those mercenaries. All these are the things that work against Jonathan's election in 2015. The northern oligarchies, they know what is going on. Those emirs, those military officers, those politicians in the north, they know what is going on. If they really want to fight this terrorism, they know what to do. But because some of them are benefiting from it, they've turned it to business. They've turned it to means of livelihood. That's why you see that this thing is festering. Look at even 8 years of a retired general as president, nothing done. Then do you think Tinubu will be able to do it when they're already talking about on your mandate we will stand in your mandate against 2027? These are political matter. By the time you start touching those people that will be against you in the next election, they will withdraw their support, and as a result, you may not get that seat. That was what happened to Jonathan. So because of this selfish reason of I want to do 8 years, I want to do 2 tenures, this terrorism will not stop. Every successive government that comes in, there are people who said this domain to them. This, you must not touch this area. You must not touch this area. That's what is going on in Nigeria. Nobody is speaking the truth. Until we speak the truth to ourselves before we'll be able to tackle this terrorism that has become like a birthright to the northern people. I'm sorry that it is happening in this manner because Nigerians are being murdered innocently every day. But the people who are behind it know the source of this murdering. They know the source of the terrorism, but they don't want to speak the truth to the matter.
Okay, Mr. Elvis, thank you. Barrister Evans Sufili.
Yes.
Do you know that I read in Sahara Reporters, I know that particular media outlet are very controversial. So some of the soldiers who has been working in the war front, fighting to protect the lives of, Nigerians so they can sleep or go about their activities since 2017, some of them complain that for almost 6 years they haven't gone home, that they've been in the war front. They've been asking, at least there's a how they do this rotation stuff where some can go home, another batch, so they can rest. Some said they haven't gone home, that when they complain, either the garrison commanders will detain them or something. Another aspect of the report also stated that if Boko Haram should ambush them, and in the course of them escaping, they forget or leave their armory behind, it's a serious problem. They'll be detained. They also complain that the weaponry they have is so weak against the weaponry that the Boko Haram members, even the supposed bandits, since they don't want to call them terrorists, have. They say they come with RPGs. Now the question is, who is supplying these individuals with such sophisticated weapons on a daily basis? They have sophisticated weapons, rocket-propelled grenades. There was even on social media where I saw one of them actually playing with a drone. These guys are really going into strong ammunition that are scientifically modified. And it's almost like we're still using hunter guns to fight against them. So the question is, are these supposed individuals or persons or cabal actually taking advantage of these terrorist groups to the detriment of the murder of a lot of Nigerians? People are dying needlessly.
The terrorist groups are highly funded. They are highly funded because the federal government not too long ago gave us a list of those who are funding them. Until today, none of them have been prosecuted. Okay? You have these high net worth people whom have businesses across the Middle East, get grants and funding across the Middle East, wherein they used to perpetrate this act of terrorism, and none of them have been prosecuted by the federal government. Even when the federal government were the one that supplied their names to the prosecution.
Barrister Evans, do you know the killing in Mangu in Plateau State, Bokos? Not one person has been paraded.
Nobody has been paraded. That's what I'm saying.
The alacrity of the military's response to what happened in Aba, we didn't see that in just Plateau State.
Esther.
Yes, Barrister
Esther,
Evans.
let me quickly chip in.
Sorry, Mr. Elvis.
Let me quickly chip in. The present vice president of Nigeria today, when he was the governor of Borno State, I'm talking of Shetima. Remember, there was a time he visited Aso Rock, he visited Buhari, and said when he was briefing the press, he told the world that the bandits are much more armed. They are more sophisticatedly armed than Nigeria army. Go and look for that video. He told the world that what they are carrying is more than what Nigerian armies are carrying.
Jesus.
Today he is at the seat of power, second person in this nation. So they don't know what to do now. So he will tell me that he doesn't know what to do. Apart from the cheaper guys that happened under his regime, those guys are still so many of those guys are still missing today. Today now nobody is not talking about it. You remember that was what brought trouble to Major General Adeniyi, who was the theater commander at that time. He said, "Give me arms to fight these boys. They are not more than Nigeria army." They said he was underrating the Nigeria army and he was court-martialed. Remember, I'm talking of Major General Adeniyi. He's still alive. So these are the things we are talking about. The vice president that is sitting there in Aso Rock today knows what is going on with terrorism in Nigeria, especially that northeast. He said it during Buhari's regime. Today he's in power. He's not talking in that area any longer because they are talking about how to get first tenor and second tenor. So these are the issues we'll be talking about. The northern people knows what is going on within that region, but they don't want to speak the truth to power.
Wow. That's it's a disheartening concept, Mr. Evans. It's a disheartening concept. I wouldn't lie to you. It's not something that we should just sit down and fold our hands. It's gotten to a point where questions needs to be asked and the federal government needs to respond to it as soon as possible. If the presidency is afraid, let him tell us. Tell Nigerians that, please, these individuals, they are more powerful than I am or something, and we will need your cooperation. This is what we want to do. Employ mercenaries if you don't want to admit that the Nigerian military cannot fight against these guys because you know that a certain cabal are using them for business. Let these guys be cleared of.
Not like the Nigerian make Nigerian make can actually decimate Boko Haram, but they kind of support Boko Haram and the kind of funding that they have, and the federal government having uncovered those who support funds them, and have not done anything about it. The reason we still have these issues ongoing. Now, a serious country that wants to exterminate Boko Haram, if you have gotten the identity of those funding them, what else should you do? Is it not to prosecute them?
Exactly.
Prosecute them and bring them to justice, okay? For sabotage, economic sabotage, sabotaging the nation and the rest of that. And now whoever is involved in terrorism or act of terrorism, conspiracy, accomplice and all that, they will have the Terrorism Prevention Act in Nigeria, which is a law enacted by the National Assembly of this country,
Okay.
which prescribes how and what should be done to anyone who is found funding insurgency.
Okay.
So what is required is that they should prosecute them, take them through the law, and bring them to book. But the federal government hasn't done that. Has only mentioned them and has not done anything about it thereafter. So that tells you that they will be emboldened.
Okay.
They will do more damage. They will create more chaos in society because they have been identified, but there's no prosecution whatsoever. Then whoever it is that is funding and sponsoring them, okay, so working against the progress of Nigeria, whether you're in government, out of government, within government, the cabals that sit over this to pretend because they benefit from it. Every year's budget, there's a huge chunk that is set aside for this purpose. If that is the attraction, you must get to a point, you must get a leader that will disband that. And that is what is expected of this government. That this government promised that they will take care of security. Part of the 8-point agenda of this government is that they will look into security welfare of the people. And that security and welfare of the people have not been addressed. 1 year going, it has not been addressed. It's supposed to be the first issue in the burner that should receive, attention. Okay, I am surprised that after mentioning those who are, sponsoring Boko Haram, they have not been prosecuted today. I'm very surprised to say this. Okay, a government that is serious about protecting her citizens will not sleep over and watch her citizens being decimated. Like we have the case in this region that you mentioned during your expression, and that people were gunned down, killed, and the rest of that under the watch of the government. When you know that these people have been gunned down, being killed, you know they are sponsors, and you could, close your eyes and watch over and see that these people are killed, and you're the sponsor, you've not done anything. Assuming you don't know the sponsors, assuming you don't know those who propel them to do what they do, that would have been a different case entirely. But here you know those, and they are emboldened. You cannot do anything. And we have not done anything whatsoever. Okay, those who are fighting, the soldiers are complaining that they need better armory, they need better weapons to be able to chase these people. You deprive them of it. When you deprive them of those people, what you are saying is that they should be overrun by the enemy. And when they are overrun by the enemy, it is the country that has been defeated. So we must come fresh. We must come fresh by empowering our soldiers. The rules of engagement in this kind of battle. We must assist them to succeed. We must give them all the support, moral support, equipment. The funds budgeted for the purposes of security should be released to them. And they should get all they need. They should make a list of what they need to combat crime. And that same should be delivered to them. That's how serious country operates. If you think that they are not able to get a hold of it, get mercenaries. There are countries where you have people who are ready to do this job if you pay them. They are ready to do the job. They will come and survey the environment, they will do their research, they will train over it, they will take on the insurgents and do complete damage, maximum damage against them.
Clear them out.
Yes, and then you will revive the country. That's their job. That's their job that they wake up to every morning. So if your soldiers don't have the technical know-how, get them on board, pay them, mobilize them, let them have a backup with the soldiers, and let them do the job. Okay, we cannot for a long time now, from 2001 till now, we're talking about one issue. We cannot clear it.
It's not making sense anymore.
It's not making sense
anymore.
That is why you should not go about anybody making commentaries on this. Whether they are making it maliciously or whatever, you don't have any moral justification to go after them, because if you attempt nip this in the bud, nobody will be here talking about your inefficiency.
But Mr. Elvis, so would you think that the situation now with the Nigerian military saying they've raided an IPOB camp in Abao, so do you think this is the reprisal that the community members have been afraid of? Because when that killing happened, the following day, the entire community was, literally scanty. Shops couldn't open, people couldn't go to church. A lot of things, just were locked up. The economic activity in that area was literally ground zero. And now they have been able to find out some, enclaves where they say IPOB members, are hiding. They were able to retrieve some weaponry from there. They said they saw 2 locally fabricated artillery guns with tripods, Dane guns, Biafran flags and bombs, and that they were able to destroy and clear out the camp. They dismantled most of the artilleries they found there, and in fact they said they actually implored the residents to continue to provide them information. So how do you think Nigerians or Aba residents should actually trust that indeed these individuals that the Nigerian military said they flushed out are indeed IPOB members? Because a couple of them, or the fear by critics, is that when these things happen, they could take any random person and categorize them as IPOB members or ESN members without due process, maybe taking them to court, prosecuting them and all of that stuff. The next thing they do is to kill them off. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's why we should be calling for proper investigation into the activities of the military and even the civilians who are assisting them. Because we heard of reprisal attack and they said, okay, they were not going to go through that route. But today we are hearing that they went and raided the camp.
Yes.
If it's actually true that it's an IPOB camp and that these people that they said they neutralized are actually part of those that are bringing a lack of peace to Southeast, where it is welcomed. But if there are innocent people among them, then there should be an investigative body to actually look at those people that they neutralize at the camp and see whether there is actually true in what the military is telling us. we were not happy about the death of those soldiers. Nobody is happy. But we are saying that two wrongs cannot make it right. That they should not, because of the death of this, the killing of the soldiers, invade innocent persons, and neutralize them and call them terrorists or call them IPOB members. So we are still talking about, no matter what the success they claim they have recorded in this matter now, it's still subject to investigation, so that more of this will not take place, or in the guise of, they are still IPOB members and we are neutralizing them because of what happened. Because if there is no proper investigation, they will still go further. And tomorrow we'll see here another camp. And these camps, are they actually the terrorists that were involved in this matter, or are they innocent citizens? Because we have seen some videos from Aba that they started moving, some innocent citizens have been picked up. There's one particular video from one girl from who said he's a medical doctor in Lut, that her house in Aba, his younger brother, who are even of underage, have been picked up. So such things you must have to be looked into, because we can't just rely on the information from the military, and begin to say, they've done well. Because in Nigeria, most of these things festers as lies, and they use it as cover up, to perpetuate injustice on people. So we can't rely on that absolutely. But
right. Still on that, Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer submitted 9 judgments. I think this was about 3 days ago. And the 9 judgments is to demand his immediate release, specifically to go on bail. You recall that the Miete Katao Haure president also was given cleared off of terrorism charges against him. That was the first thing that happened. Then you know that Abba Kyari went on 2 weeks leave. 2 weeks, he was given 2 weeks leave to go bury his mother. So
to bury his mother.
Yes, to go bury his mother. Now, you remember that during the ministerial sectoral updates, the Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, said that the case of Nnamdi Kanu is not something that he knows. Like, he doesn't know who Nnamdi Kanu is. But he actually advocated that let justice take its course. Let the court take its course. That's precisely what he said. Now, look at this. Because of that, the lawyer, all right, the defense team of Nnamdi Kanu actually went to get about 9 judgments. Okay, that the leader of that team is Barrister Nemeka Ejiofo. He informed journalists that the judgments were issued by both domestic and international courts ordering Kanu's release. They cited the African Union Commission on Human People's Rights Communication, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights, dated the 1st of October 2020, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Promotion and Protection of Human Rights, the 26th of August. Then additional judgments were the High Court of Abia Umuahia Division judgment of 19th of January 2022, the United Nations Human Rights Council Working Group on Arbitrary Detention opinion dated 30th of March. Now, beyond all of those judgments, residents from Germany, or I think the German government too, they're advocating for his release, they're advocating for his bail, and even some veterans actually in the United States to actually asking for it. So the thing is this, he's to appear in court on June 19 this month. That is when we would know, either through Justice Binta Nyako, based on how their defense would be if Nnamdi Kanu will be granted bail. Do you see that possibility, even with all of what they had presented? I'm sorry, let me direct it to Barrister Evans because he's the legal practitioner. Do you see that possibility?
No, before he speaks in, Esther, let me just quickly, chip in something. I know he's going to handle it from the legal aspect.
Yes.
Let me tell you, Nnamdi Kanu's matter, nobody should overflog it this period.
Okay.
This present government, I said it in his own Enterprise TV some time ago. What is going to happen in this matter is let the political power, the political bigwigs in the Southeast, and all who is who, like the Johanese has been leading, Chief Iwanyahu has been leading, let them continue with that kind of dialogue on Nnamdi Kanu is going to be released on political ground before 2027. The government will look for what to do to bring the people closer to them because they are seeking election. That's what is going to happen. Now that the international community has started coming in, everybody is coming in, releasing him and all that, the government is going to yield to it because by 2027 they want more vote. That's what happens in Nigeria. Have you heard of Dasuki? Dasuki, that after all the incarceration and all that, he was released. Have you heard Dasuki appeared in any court again today? Have you heard? So these are some of the things that this is exactly what is going to happen in Nnamdi Kanu's matter. He will be released on political ground. But let this pressure, let this advocacy, let this awareness continue to come in. But let the Southeasterners, especially those who are in the political arena, those who are the Ohanezes and all the who is who, begin to talk to this government. But this government will yield in.
They have been doing that.
Let it continue. They have been doing it. Let it continue. Let it continue. And the international community support that is also coming in,
yes,
let that one also continue. They will release him on political ground, and that will end this matter. Go and mark it before 2027, Wester.
All right, let's see more about that. In the meantime, though, Barrister Evans, I read out 9 judgments that Nemeka Ejiofor, the lead counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, ruled out concerning the fact that they have actually asked. In fact, the recent one that I read on Daily Post today is the fact that Nnamdi Kanu has written to the appeal court asking for the bail that was granted to him in one of the high courts, that it should be reinstated. The Federal High Court.
Yeah, because the truth is that, 2027 is a very long time.
Yes.
For now to consider Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu have done nothing wrong. In fact, the Supreme Court said that his extraordinary rendition was an irresponsible act of the federal government. That he did not jump bail. When he was on bail, the federal government invaded his house.
Yes.
House, killed his parents.
Yeah, he said
killed his loved ones, and he managed to escape. He did not jump bail. Now, when you now arrested him in Kenya and the extraordinary rendition, illegality, you brought him to Nigeria, you don't have the moral justification to put him under trial any longer. You understand? So what I think the 2027 is talking about is very far from that. This is a man who have fundamental rights.
Okay.
His fundamental rights, he ought to exercise it as a citizen of the country. You understand? So the federal government is holding him in detention unjustly. And if you are doing that, you don't have the moral justification to consider him on that trial when you have violated the extant laws and the treaties you have signed with these countries, as to the issue of extradition.
Yes.
So I think his case is one that is a political matter. The people who represent him in the National Assembly and the elders and the leaders of the Southeast, the Ohanese and Igbo and the rest of them, I don't know how far they have gone on this issue, but I think I am tempted to say they are co-fitted.
Why?
If it were to be a northerner that is in that detention,
they would have been voracious.
Yes, they should
like
have
what with the Miyetti cartel leader.
Do something, at least do something, that will make sure that he's out of that place.
What else could they do?
His continual detention had led to more crisis in the Southeast.
In the Southeast.
His continual detention, when you look at what has happened so far, even when they kill soldiers, from the prison custody when he was taken to court, he condemned it, and he said if he has been outside, these issues wouldn't have gone this way. That is to say, he's even speaking in the light of protecting the Nigerian state, because a lot of things would have been taken care of if you were to be outside, like he said. You understand?
And he said since his detention, some elements have taken advantage. They made reference to Simon Ekpa,
yes,
how he's taken advantage of it. We know that Nnamdi Kanu has refused to recognize, Simon Ekpa or even have any affiliation with him. I recall he made that statement in when he appeared in court. He said any individual who is posing as a leader or giving order in regards to in terms of being the leader of IPOP, that person is a terrorist. That's what he said.
You understand? So for me, I think the federal government should work on his release. His release is critical. It's political. You see, the soldiers you are deploying to that place, the federal government is spending so much to deploy soldiers and keep that place in order. Keep them within territory. You understand? But if you have him out, and like he has said, a lot of people have taken advantage of this struggle to make pecuniary gains. You understand? But if he's out, he can actually direct and make orders.
All right.
You understand? To stem the tide of criminality in that area. Because you notice that whenever Nnamdi Kanu is out, you don't have people committing crime in the name of IPOP. It's only when he's in detention
that
you hear people are taking advantage of that name. And they are committing offenses with it. And all over the whole place is aghast.
Well, let's take calls now because we'll soon be wrapping up. It's 8:07. So please, when you call, you have a minute so we can take as much calls as possible. The number is 0700 903 903 903. That's the number to call, 0700 903 903 903. And the WhatsApp number is 0817 1756 338. 0817 1756 338. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Name and location, please.
Hello, good evening. Esther.
Hello, good evening.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Good evening to your guests in the studio and outside the studio.
All right, okay. What? All right.
My name is Peter Ustifo. I'm calling from Abana.
All right, Peter, you have a minute, please. Go ahead.
Now, on labor and minimum wage, I want to quickly say that, Mr. President, either on the 12th of June, that is this coming Wednesday, or even October 1st, because whatever is declared, it will be backdated to April 2024. So no time is lost as it were. He should declare that the minimum wage should be between 65,000 naira and 70,000 naira. In fact, it should be 65,000 naira. You know, why am I saying that? Apart from that, he should also, let the borders to be open at least for 6 months, and if possible, to introduce price control board tariffs to the opening of the border.
Okay.
Why I'm saying that is that if the labor union, if they are thinking that 250,000 is what they can get, to me it is unrealistic. In the sense that it is further create.
All right, your 1 minute is over. Your 1 minute is over. Thank you so much. Thank you. 0700 903 903 903. That's the number to call. Please, you have a minute so we can take as many calls as possible and then also read WhatsApp messages. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Name and location, please. Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Esther, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. My name is Pat. Actually, Pat is my name. Actually, I'm calling from Yaba.
All right, Pat. Go
area.
ahead.
Good. I just have a stake in the lawyers that presented now the Kanu's issue.
Okay.
You see, my advice is simple. I wish your guest is actually hearing me.
He's listening,
My advice is simple. Thank God. They should compile all those 9 verdicts, push it straight to International Criminal Court or ICJ in Hague, so that Hague or World Court will descend on Nigeria government with the same equal weight they descended on Nnamdi Kanu, so that they will either compel them diplomatically, politically, or whichever way to force Nigeria government to release this gentleman. He's been overlong for due. Thank you very much. That's
all right, thank you, Pat. What do you think, Barrister Evans, with what he suggested?
Well, what he's saying is persuasive.
Okay.
By virtue of treaties we signed
Okay.
with other countries, you can have that international collaboration. So ask for clemency.
Okay.
It's called clemency. That the president, the federal government consider the sensitivity of this. Okay, and make a decision as well as
Wouldn't it take time?
well, it will take time, but make a decision as well, even if it is released on condition. But should be some people in the southeast have said release them to
Okay.
the local state governor.
All right.
Came out and said release them to
Okay. Yes, Peter Amba.
Yes, the conditions will describe that.
All right. Okay.
And then there should be a political solution.
All right. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Name and location, please.
Hi, Esther. My name is Christian from Lagos.
Christian. All right. Go ahead, please. You have a minute.
All right, so I'm just speaking on this IPOB and Simon Ekpa related issue. So, like your guest said,
Yeah.
I've studied this thing for a long time now. Simon Ekpa works for the government.
You think so? For the Nigerian government?
Yes, I know so. So I've been studying because I'm always on Twitter. So I've been studying so many things. I mean, for even Nnamdi Kanu to deny that he's part that Simon Ekpa is one of them. So he is there to destabilize the Southeast.
The Southeast.
Yes. And again, I also noticed that, I mean, we have one of the most intelligent military officials in the world. Well, due to political reasons, they've been reduced to nothing.
Okay.
If they want to fetch Simon Ekpa, they can fetch him the same way they fetched Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho. And like your guest said, anytime Kanu is being detained, you can see that's when Simon Ekpa comes up, begins to fester disunity in the East. So he works for them. If not, they would have taken him a long time ago. It's quite sad, really. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you. Barrister Evans, do you think so? That he's working for the government? Because I've actually heard that if Nnamdi Kanu could be taken the way he was taken, they could have done so with Simon Ekpa. Though also one of the House of Rep members on Arise Television said that Simon Ekpa actually does some empowerment programs through funding. That he funds some people, encouraging them or whatever. That this could be a means through which he's using to garner support.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the last is wrong, except that I don't have the evidence.
Okay.
And also, to make matter worse, there was a time the federal government went after him.
Yes.
So if it's working for them, they are going to against him, or was that a fluke, or was that to deceive the masses and all that? So the matter is not very clear to me.
Okay.
I have taught it the way exactly the way the last class, but it's not clear to me. I have not gotten clarity on it. That is why I cannot give a categorical
statement. Okay, thank you. Hello, evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight.
Yeah, good evening.
Turn down the volume of your listening device, please.
Calling from Egbeda.
All right, go ahead. You have a minute.
I want to speak on issue of minimum wage.
Okay.
The amount of money that is given to them, no matter how much is given to the labor or the civil servant, you cannot do anything. Hence, the cost of living is too high. For example, Sister Esther, assume in your house that your relation or what brought all that you needed in your house. The little money you have to make proper use of it. But when there's nothing in your house, no matter how much amount that comes, it will not solve the problem. What I'm saying in essence is this. The federal government of Nigeria is supposed to do something concerning what is going on. The economy of the nation, the high cost of things, how much you give anybody. What is a 100 and something thousand? What is a 60,000? What can it buy? If they can do something, at least a bag of rice come down to 15, 20,000, even 20,000.
Your 1 minute is over, please. We need to take more calls, okay? Thank you. All right, thank you so much. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Name and location, please. You have a minute.
Okay. First thing, please tell your guests.
What's your name?
My name is Ike.
All right,
calling
Ike.
from London.
All right, Ike.
Yeah,
go ahead.
tell your guests to speak on the camera, on the microphone, because his voice is very. We hardly hear. Yeah, we hardly hear what he's saying. And the issue I want to comment on is the issue of minimum wage.
Okay.
With the amount government is offering is too small. It's too poor.
Okay.
Before Tinubu removed the subsidy, how much was the petrol? How was the cost of living in Nigeria
at the time?
And they promised Nigerians that when they remove this, there will be enough money. So where is the money he has saved so far? Is the money they have made? They have saved. Is it for them, for the political class only?
Thank you. Your 1 minute has been exhausted. All right. Thank you so much. 0700 903 903 903. That's the number to call. 0700 903 903. Hello. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Name and location, please. Hello. All right. Please, when you call, turn down the volume of your radio set so we can hear you. Let me take some messages now. This is from, you didn't put your name. Please, when you're sending messages, put your name. Hello. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. What's your name, please? Hello. All right. When you call in, please, you know that you're live. Indicate that you are live. I can hear you. Hello. All right, let me take some messages. Shawara is a serial loser, a jealous fellow with a crab mentality, ready to pull down anyone who has achieved more than he desperately wishes and would ever dream of. The unprofessionalism of the Nigerian army at this point is unbecoming, conducting themselves lawlessly and barbaric. How is their act different from terrorists they claim to fight? In the same Nigeria, we've heard in the news of terrorists enrolling in the army, soldiers caught supplying arms to terrorists. Captain Tijani Balarabe, who led soldiers to kill policemen to free Wadume, a terrorist who is finally out of jail and was welcomed by his people. Helicopters throwing down supplies to terrorists in the middle of the night. Why did Buhari at some point declare a no-fly zone in a state with no airport? When the terrorist Kabiru Sakwato was said to be wanted, where was he later found? Same today, who was sitting with some filthy terrorists eating bread and suya. That's the VP. All right, please next time indicate your name when you send messages like this. Is very important. Greetings, Esther Wachiko. The failure of the governor and government to provide civil servants with a fair wage exemplifies the extreme corruption and lack of genuineness within the Tinubu administration. Please, the attire of your guest is inappropriate. He should button up. He ought to be mindful that his appearance influences the youth and young children. Peter from Germany. Peter, is because we run audio visual, right? This is a radio station and it's a Sunday evening. All right. Good evening, all. May God bless your guests. The government is using Nnamdi Kanu case as politics. Let them release him. He's innocent. You did not indicate your name. Kindly indicate your name, please. It's important. Good evening, Esther and the guests in the studio. Good work you guys are doing. Your guest should get closer to the mic as he is not audible enough. Apostle Parry Egon from Lagos. All right. Thank you, Apostle. He's actually done that. Evening crew, you can see that this government's priority is to increase salaries of cash and carry judiciary that brought him into power 300%. Unlike civil servant, paying them peanut, considering the nightmare they have put Nigerians into just because of 2027. Also, 90 billion naira for pilgrimage for loyalty of some religious sects. Is this not corruption, destroying the main institutions just for their own gain? Imagine 21 billion naira for your VP lounge, where they have turned the people to beggars and Almajiri in the midst of plenty. It shows that this is a government of waste by waste for waste. It's a shame that the worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly, there was a country. Dio from Fagba. Dio, thank you for your message. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. Okay, we've lost that connection. 0700 903 903 903. That's the number to call. You actually have WhatsApp messages to send. 0817 1756 338. Hello, welcome to the Political Spotlight. What's your name?
Hello. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Hello.
I can hear you. Go ahead. What's your name and location, please?
Hello?
You have a minute. I can hear you. Just go ahead.
Hello?
I can hear you. You can't hear me because you increased the volume of your radio, and so the feedback is distorting. All right, 0700 903 903 903. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. What's your name?
This is the Petit from Washington.
All right, you have a minute. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Okay, I think this network thing has started again.
From Washington.
I can hear you, sir. Go ahead. I can hear you. Okay. All right. If you are trying to call via the main number and you can't hear, you can actually call the WhatsApp line as well. We can pick your call on WhatsApp. 0817 1756 338. That's WhatsApp number. 0817 1756 338. If the 0700 number is not connecting properly, or when you call we can hear you, you can actually call the WhatsApp line. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes. Good evening. Name and location, please.
This is from Sierra.
All right, go ahead. You have a minute.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for saying this word. You know why I've very seen the job that is touching me about taxes.
You said what?
Anything come up on taxes. It's very difficult to settle that.
What did you say, sir?
Come up from not. I say I don't know why they say anything come up from taxes. It's very, very difficult to settle down. But anything coming from South North or South or nothing like North, it's very easy to settle. Nobody can hear it. Are you now? Your South is not Nigeria. That's my question number one. South is not Nigeria. I mean, they can answer me.
Yes, you're asking a rhetorical question. Of course, it's Nigeria. It's part of Nigeria.
Well, yes, Zida. Why did because it should because it was that is what happened in Southeast. But just bother me. If I will let me tell you the truth. I'm sorry to say this. If I'm in position to do more than what I'm doing there, I'm with that because you're taking us on like nothing.
All right.
Yes, that's because I'm just starting.
All right, thank you.
Because it happened for Southwest, we won't complain about it.
Thank you.
We are condemning it.
You've exhausted your 1 minute. Yes, thank you so much. All right. Thank you for those of you who called. We need to wrap up the program now. Barrister Evans Sufeli, what's your final take on the conversations we've had? What would you give as a recommendation?
Well, I would say that the Nigerian government should take a decision on insurgency.
All right.
Yeah, every country in the world where you have challenges like this, is expected that the government must show that they have monopoly of violence.
Okay.
And that monopoly of violence is to exterminate whatever it is that is fighting against the corporate entity of the country. And that is the Boko Haram and the bandits.
Yes.
Government, the reason is...
Barrister Evans, they're no longer bandits, so they're terrorists. Because what they've been carrying on now...
Yeah, they're terrorists. I mean, all along, the government have named them terrorists.
They're terrorists.
Before the Kanu jet was used against them. So, what the responsibility of government is for the protection and life of properties of the people. So, government must take a decision on them effectively.
All right.
And for Nnamdi Kanu, I think holding Nnamdi Kanu up to this point... it's no longer appealing.
All right.
I mean, the government should release him.
All right. Mr. Elvis, what do you have to say?
Well, I still want to appeal to Nigeria Army to tread softly regarding what happened in the Southeast on the 30th of May.
Okay.
Let innocent people not be involved in this killing we are hearing. We've neutralized iPod camp and all that. So please, they should tread softly. They should not, extend it to the innocent citizen. Aba has become a city that we are all proud of lately, and Aba is gearing up to be the commercial nerve center of the Southeast, and even by extension, West Africa region. So we should not allow what has happened on the 30th to scare away genuine investors who are interested in coming to Aba to do genuine business in Nigeria.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Elvis Alimehele, for taking your time to be part of the political spotlight. I sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you, Esther.
Barrister Evans Sufeli, thank you so much for staying. I know you've literally stayed with us for almost 6 hours. Yes, since the time of Citizen Jones, since 3 o'clock. So for the caller, the person who sent a message that he dressed down, it's a Sunday. He came for the beer parlor talk with Citizen Jones. I kept him down to actually stay for the political spotlight. Thank you for joining us on the political spotlight. I sincerely do appreciate you being part of the program right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We try to project the needs of the people. We also question policies of the government. If it resonates with the people, very good. If it doesn't, we also try to make objective recommendations so the needful is done. Government and governance is all about inclusivity. My name is Esther Mwachuku. Do have yourselves an amazing evening. Remember to follow me on YouTube, ESTIQMEDIA. Subscribe, Estic Media, as well as on social media or other social media platforms. On Instagram, Esther Nwaz, on Facebook, Esther Mwachuku, and on Twitter is at Esther Mwachuku. To have yourselves a wonderful evening.